WWE and ECW alumni, the Blue Meanie, and you're listening to PCW.
The question is, are you ready? Let me talk to you.
I will give you a show like you have never, ever seen before. Why? Because I can.
What do you guys want to talk about? I am that damn good.
I am the B-E-S-T.
In the color red, in a world full of black and white, I am the eater of worlds. Yeah, if you're some man, acknowledge me. The champ is here. But to be the man, you gotta beat the man, and I'm saying, woo, right here. Hey, yo. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of PCW Podcast Championship Wrestling. My name is Wayne, also known as Semi-Dry Chicken. I am your host tonight, and we are going to be talking, not a prediction, not yet, no, because we're going to squeeze something in right before we do our SummerSlam predictions. These are going to now be my favorite episodes. It's when we bring a Peep in. When we get a new Peep, we acquire somebody new to bring to the show. But you know what? I love doing these interviews, but I never want to do them alone. So let me bring out the co-hosts. Here we go. Hey Dre, what's up, buddy?
Yo, what it do, PCW crew?
And these interview episodes, I want more of these. You know, these are going to be nice. Getting to know the fans, the people who listen to our show, wrestling fans. Not a lot of shows you get that opportunity to get the more in-depth one-on-one with the listener, you know?
Exactly. It's always a good opportunity when you can speak with your audience directly, as opposed to just speaking to them.
Yeah, I mean, doing it through Twitter and comments and stuff is cool and all, but, I mean, to get you on the show, give you the airtime that you need to tell us why you listen to our show and why you're a fan of what we're fans of.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean, anybody who listens to podcasts, you always find yourself in a position where they're talking about something and you're screaming into your earphones or something like that at what they have to say, or throwing up your own 2 cents in contradiction to what they have to say. So at least here you get to actually do it to our face, proverbially.
Yeah. Oh God, Dre, he's here. I can't believe he's here. Oh my God.
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry, 'cause they love him in London and Paris and Tokyo, America, Scotland and Canada and Mexico. They say, I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
I believe in Doyle.
Oh, it's me. It's the D-O-Y-L-E. God damn it, that song's catchy.
Dude, that could be your new shirt, man. That in the merch on our pro wrestling tees. I believe in Doyle. That could work.
I hope my voice holds up. I've been a little under the weather this week. I've got a bad case of Olympic fever.
Were you swimming in the river in Paris?
Ooh, I didn't say I was a toxic Avenger.
Oh, the Toxic Avenger.
Noted.
The only prescription for this fever is more Simone.
Oh, okay.
More to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, we have somebody new. We have a new gimmick, a new wrestler, a superstar, a new Peep coming to the show. Let me bring him on out.
Oh, yeah. It's me, Drew Davis, the Max Digital, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on today. Looking forward to looking forward to learning more about wrestling, meeting all of you, and just sharing what we love. Happy to be here.
Welcome to the show, Drew. And let me stay off top. Kudos on the choice of entrance theme. Kudos on that. That is... Can we agree that that's probably one of the more underrated entrance themes in wrestling history?
Do you remember at WrestleMania World there was that entrance thing they had that make your own entrance?
Yep.
Like almost everybody did either Cena or Roman Reigns, but I remember one dude busted out Robert Roode. I'm sorry.
It was so good,
and
so
it was
good.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I mean, that theme itself, didn't that arguably, I don't know if it definitively did, but that's probably one of the first themes that really got the audience into it as far as chanting and singing along.
You know, for me, it's just I love those I don't want to call them carnies, but I love that era of wrestling with the big flowing robes, like Ric Flair and Rick Rude and Macho Man Randy Savage during his King era. I love that that aura that they bring to the ring, as much of a hero as they are, or heel or face, just that kind of classic boxing match, big robe feel, and I think Glorious just personifies that perfectly. Mm-hmm. Every time I hear that song, I get up out of my couch and just arms wide, looking at a fake audience. Just, feeling that energy.
Yeah, I got the I have one bathrobe that's really big, right? And I do, Andrew will tell you, I do it. I'll come out and I'll have the bathrobe and I'll do the spin to the song. I'll ask Google to play it for me. Yeah, and she's like, I don't get it. I'm like, yeah, you wouldn't. If you've never seen it, you'll never get it. I'm like, it's fucking glorious. It was so good. And just like Doyle's theme song tonight, it's I don't want to cut it. I just want to keep playing it. Especially Doyle's, because Joe Hendry hits that guitar solo, and let me tell you, man, I just want to keep on playing it before YouTube attacks me. Yeah,
but it's those entrances that the audience just really clings to. Just like Joe Hendry, man. I mean, as soon as I heard Joe Hendry, I was hooked.
Yeah,
and it's something that the fans can really connect to and participate in, and I think that's what true wrestling is being able to participate with the fans and working and changing and adapting based on fans. That's the best part of it.
I was on board with his video package of just him singing it, and then as soon as he started waving the arms, I was like, "Yup, that's gonna be a thing." And sure be it, I was watching NXT the other night, and he was on. And he did a concert, and they were all waving their hands and stuff. I'll attach it to the end of this episode. I actually have the full concert, so I'll attach it to the end of this episode. But
what?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you guys know why I'm here today? Did you share the story?
No, actually, that's what I wanted to get into. Tell us where you're from. Tell us how you heard about us, how we got here. You know, tell us your journey, your origin story. I'll let you take the floor a little bit here. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'll give you a nice high level. My name's Drew, California based, down in San Diego.
Oh,
my
it means
first-
whale's vagina.
Exactly. The first thing I can remember of wrestling when I was a little kid is I remember seeing two things: Ted DiBiase coming out on that massive like horse carriage, and Undertaker's purple tie standing next to Paul Bearer holding the urn. And I mean, those are the earliest memories I have of wrestling. And I'm going to surprise you guys a little bit. So I come from I was a total theater kid growing up. Obviously I worked in the film industry, but I've always loved the theatrical storytelling, just visual component of wrestling. That the spectacle of it all. And after the film industry, I got into tech, yada yada yada. Last week, I was in a meeting with a colleague of mine, and in the meeting, we were waiting for someone to show up to the Zoom call, and your sister happened to jump on and say his name and he'll appear. Completely unknowing what they were, having no idea what she was saying, and just out of instinct, I go, I believe in Joe Henry, in the middle of a team meeting. No one had any idea what I was talking about. But she texted me. She goes, are you a fan of wrestling? I'm like, a huge fan. She goes, well, my brother runs a podcast. She sends me the link. Lo and behold, I'd already been following you on Twitter.
Huh.
Okay, cool.
Because whenever there's a PLE, I'm just responding to everybody. Just trying to engage via Twitter, and I definitely recognize the podcast. So as soon as I heard, and I reached out to you guys, and that's what brought me here. It's especially a global phenomenon like wrestling. Being able to find people to talk to about it can actually be really difficult in certain areas, and especially COVID, post-COVID, just finding groups of people that love this and being able to talk about it. That's why I'm here. Just being able to share my love for this sport.
Dude, that's awesome. That's so awesome, and we're like so active on the Discord with wrestling. So it's like any time of the day, you just have like this itch to talk about wrestling. I just
my wife definitely thinks I'm having an affair all the time.
Oh man, yeah, dude. Because we're always on the Discord, always. And sometimes like I'll be busy, I'll see it, I'll read it, but like I won't engage sometimes. But like I'm reading it. But, there's some people who just watch AEW, and you want to just talk AEW, then there you go. There's an AEW chat. There's a New Japan, there's we have everything,
And I'll definitely, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I definitely give a lot of credit to COVID for really reigniting my love for this sport. I'd always grown up with it, watched it when I could. I never followed it as concretely as some of my closest friends. And then, because of COVID, and then I'd cut cable. So I was only, like with Hulu and Peacock. I remember one Saturday I was just, seeing what was on Peacock, and it just happened to be that, WrestleMania when Cody Rhodes, re-debuted.
38.
Came back. And, I think he brought a lot of casual fans back to WWE. And then, I just kind of got back into, watching, the Raws and the, SmackDowns again in between the events, and getting back into, the storylines and the pacing of it all. And it's just, oh man, it's gotten me through a lot of crazy times, and it's what we've been dealing with over the last few years.
Yeah, COVID was such a rough time to go through in wrestling. Like the Thunderdome. Oh, I had to go through the Thunderdome.
I actually stopped watching. So
Yeah.
weird without a crowd. I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
and there was some pretty. That was a pretty low point for.
It was. I was like,
perspective. It was pretty. What was that group? With they look like Slipknot. What the hell was that? What were they called? Ali was their leader, and
Retribution.
Yes.
That led nowhere.
Garbage.
The whole Thunderdome era was so rough. Like I remember at one point just going like, because WrestleMania was like around the corner. I'm like, what the hell are they gonna do? Like, are they really gonna cancel WrestleMania? Like,
Yeah.
they.
Well,
I was
actually,
like, there's no way they're gonna
but-
do it in the Performance Center.
Were
Yeah,
the
they're
screens
not-
in the dome actually displaying people, or was it all blue screen and then they just kind of projected it in post?
Well, they didn't start off that way. The screens weren't always there. That was a thing added way later, and the screens, I actually enjoyed them when they added the screens, but like, yeah, before that it was just nothing.
They're just in a warehouse.
It was just, yeah, I think it was in the Performance Center, I think it was, and it was just nothing.
empty.
And like you could hear like the mat, and you could hear like you could just hear everything. The heavy breathing, you could hear them talking to each other. It was rough, and like when they added the Thunderdome, then they started adding the sounds in, like the applause and stuff. So they started feeding that in. So great, now we don't have real applause. We have fake, fake noise being pumped in, which they definitely used since then during live events. Not where we're at, but if you're if you're watching it from home, it's like I bet they pumped in some crowd sound. I mean, in the
I
segment
can
here.
100% verify and guarantee from my experience at WWE Raw Day 1 this year in San Diego, those boos for Dom Dom are 100% real and loud, and it is hilarious. And to me, booing him for me is a sign of respect. I'll talk more about that later, but I'm a huge fan of heels and giving them, the praise that they deserve to an extent. But man, being able to stand there and just boo him was, I think, the most fun I've ever had.
All right, so you just said that you're a huge fan of heels, so I got to put you on the spot. Give me your top 5 heels of all time.
Man, oof. Oh God, I mean, there's so many, man. The top 5 heels of all time.
Your personal favorite. I'm not going to say, you don't have to be objective about it. Just your top 5 favorite heels of all time.
I mean, I have to start with Eddie Guerrero.
Solid choice.
I'd say Kane. Let's see.
He did light JR on fire.
I mean, early Angry Rock, man, was just so much fun. Let's see. Let's go old school. Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, man. And then let's see, one more. I'm going to go with the female. And it's going to be kind of recent, but I absolutely love Chelsea Green.
Nice.
And there's a bigger reason for that. I have so much respect for that wrestler. Getting released from WWE, crushing the indie scene, and then coming back and just causing it's just so much fun to watch. So yeah, I'd say that's my 5.
I like that.
Yeah, solid list. I'm not mad at it. That's a solid list. And yeah, you make a great point about with Chelsea Green, how she was let go, put that work in on the indie scene, and came back better than she ever was before. Which seems to be, it's worked out pretty well for a couple of WWE superstars who have
I think
gone down that route.
Invented that.
Yeah.
Who you think was the first person to do that?
Wasn't Drew one of the first?
I think Drew. I mean, Cody's done it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, Cody's probably had the most success with it, but I mean, yeah, Drew's a solid one who, first run Drew versus second run Drew is two completely different wrestlers.
Yeah.
Dude,
Drew right now is my favorite chaotic evil because he's playing both sides. His social media game is hilarious.
When
he goes, what was it, slow day at work, and then 5 minutes later, I think he's got such a good understanding of how to push, the wrestling, wrestlers' buttons, get the fans either, chanting with him or going against him. And he is just so good at creating heat, man. It's just so fun to watch. He's my favorite right now.
Like this week on Raw, him and Punk. I love Punk cutting promos, and he's so good at it. And this week, Punk just always throws out the best. And he's dishing it out to Drew, and he's like, "Oh yeah, what do you got?" And Drew doesn't say a damn word, and he just sucks all the air out of the room, and he holds up that bracelet. And I was like, that's some heel shit. That's awesome. But
he's making a strong case for MVP this year.
Yeah. At the end of the year we do award ceremony, and that man is on everybody's list for heel of the year and a bunch of other stuff.
He's definitely in the running right now. His work is unmatched. Well,
but I think another person I'd like to point out, another female wrestler. Shane, what is it, Shayna Baszler?
Shayna Baszler, yeah.
Yeah. I think she got the short end of the stick coming off of, what's her face?
Ronda Rousey.
Why am I blanking?
Ronda Rousey?
Coming off of Ronda Rousey. That was not a good setup. And when I was at the live event, I was the only one standing up rooting for her, and I actually made it onto the camera a few times. You'll actually see me throughout the night because I think she's so talented.
Yeah,
may not have the best promo skills yet, but I just think technically she's such a standout. And she's got some she's got some distance to travel, but I really hope that she gets the just more heat from people.
Yeah,
I think she's phenomenal.
So tell us about your involvement in with WWE films.
Right. So, great question.
Yeah.
So before I got into tech and all that, I used to work in the film industry, and I went to Cal State Northridge in LA, right in the Valley. Part of that experience is we had to intern. Mm-hmm. And we had to intern with a studio, with a camera house, an editing house, whatever it was. And through a mutual friend, someone reached out and mentioned that they have friends over at WWE Studios, and this was back in 2009. And as a film geek first at that time, always lover of wrestling. Mm-hmm. The appeal for that internship was actually one of the executive producers at the studio at the time was a first assistant director on one of my favorite comedies of all time, Wet Hot American Summer from David Wayne. Yeah.
I'm a huge anything that those guys are involved in, I'm there.
Oh, I've worked with David Wayne. I'll tell you about that in a bit, but he's a blast. It was a TV pilot that you'll never see. So I had to take this internship. I was so excited. And I show up, and again, this is not like Sony Pictures. This is not the Warner Brothers lot. This is not, HBO. This is one floor of a small building in the middle of LA.
Okay.
Right. This is not a big, this is not sound stages. This is literally just a production office. And I was hired as an intern to basically do script coverage. The day I show up is the day that, is the day that 12 Rounds with John Cena premiered and basically rumbled. And, box office numbers were not there where they wanted them to be. And I remember this 2 hours into my job, I was still getting my computer set up. Vince McMahon shows up to shut us down.
Turn this shit off. That's crap.
Yeah. And I remember he got into a room with the other producers, and fortunately they had enough to keep it going. And so essentially my biggest role in this internship was again what we call a someone who does script coverage. So it was my job to read every script that came into the door, whether it was already in a massive pile or through the mail slot, and I would take notes. I'm looking at how many actors, how many locations. Is this going to require a lot of stunt work? Is there a lot of special effects involved? So I'm looking at it from both a creative process and a fiscal mindset. And, all of these scripts that I'm reading, I'm basically doing. Remember back in like middle school, we'd go online and look for like the shorthand notes for all the books that we had to read. What was that website called? Cliff Notes. So
Yeah.
I'm basically creating.
We didn't have the
Cliff
internet
Notes.
when I was a kid.
It's weird that I knew that so quickly.
Yeah. But I mean, I was basically creating cliff notes for these producers.
Mm-hmm.
So when the screenwriter called, or the agent called, or the producer or director called, the producer at WW Studios could act like they've read the script and that they're totally engaged, right? So it's all of my work. And there were scripts that came across my desk, like The Chaperone with Big Show and Knucklehead with Triple H. And I begged them not to make those movies. And here we are. But that being said, I'm gonna butcher his last name, but Jay Chandrakasar from Broken Lizard showed up one day with a script.
Nice.
I don't know if I have to send an NDA for this or not, but it's too late. I'm going to tell the story. Because who knows if they'll make it one day. But essentially, it was a Greek god / wrestling movie, and so he showed up because he wanted to hire, actual WWE wrestlers to play those Greek gods.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It never made it past the front desk.
Makes sense.
Which I was, of all the scripts I read, that was the one I was most excited for.
Yeah.
Being, the Broken Lizards at that time had so much heat. They were so over with, stoner college kids at the time, so it was like, I thought it was the perfect movie to bring in wrestlers. So I did that for about 6 months. There's nothing glamorous about it. I maybe saw a wrestler every once in a while. For me, the best part was I got to go into the warehouse and got to go through all of like the props and gear from 12 rounds. So it's so that part was cool, right? You get to see how things were made. But at the end of the day, it's everyone thinks when you talk about film, everyone thinks it's red carpet and celebrity and everything, all glitz and glamour. No, it's not like that at all. It's hey, the executive producer's birthday's this afternoon. He's Australian. Can you find him a bottle of wine that's only found on the other side of LA? Right. So it was a lot of go for work. But that's part of it. You got to earn your stripes. You got to pay your way. You got to prove that you can get things done. But again, you got to pay your dues. Which I think is one of the biggest faults of most film students. Every film student wants to be an assistant director or director right out of film school. I knew from day one that I was going to have to work my way up as a set PA. So well after WW Studios, I was very fortunate to basically be pulled into a circle of assistant directors that were constantly sharing me from job to job to job. And I was doing post-production inserts on Snow White and the Huntsman.
Okay.
And right next door, this was over at the what slot was this? Yeah, this was the Universal back lot behind Universal Studios. And I was working on Snow White and the Huntsman, and right next door, it was one of my fellow assistant directors, and they were doing post production on what was it, Fast 5 or Fast 6 with Gina Carano. That was Fast 6. That was Fast 6.
That was 6.
Yeah, 6.
And so I got to work with Gina Carano and The Rock, and I'll say this, man, working with The Rock at that point in his career, absolute blessing. He was humble. He was, I don't want to say shy, but he wanted to be a part of the process. He was still learning, getting his feet wet in the film industry at that point. And so it was great to see him at that stage of his film career. I can't really say the same thing about him now. I definitely have my opinions about him inserting himself back into certain storylines, and the nepotism and all that. But at that time, and he was a blessing to work with, and creative, and had a lot of great suggestions, and very collaborative when I met him. So that was an absolute blessing. Yeah, I mean, as far as as far as my film and wrestling crossover, I mean, that really is the brunt of it. But man, when you're in an environment like WW Studios, and you have people like Vince McMahon, and obviously there's current politics, but one thing that I truly loved and appreciated, and one thing I was really I had a front row seat to, is this global business that his family has created.
Yeah.
Is the most impressive thing I've ever seen. More so when you're watching, and I can't say so much about it right now, but back then, everything on Raw, SmackDown, on any PLE, anything being advertised was 100% WWE related. He didn't have to pay any, outside advertisement, because all that they're advertising their video games, they're advertising their action figures, the music, products, documentaries. It's just a circular business of just self-advertising. It's a brilliant business model,
Right.
and it shows how just lucrative and massive that industry is. And I think that was the most impressive thing about working at WWC, is seeing the different facets of the business, and just again, you don't have to advertise other movies, because you're advertising, that horror film with Kane that was coming out, and
See No Evil.
See No Evil. So I think, to me, that was the most impressive piece of it all. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm still hooked on the fact that you said that Vince tried to come in and stop 12 rounds. I think it's funny that that's what drew him to, I gotta shut this one down. That that's the one, Vince. In person, that's the one, Vince, where he's just it's like that scene. It's like, where is he? Where is that son bitch? Let's get him. Let's get that son bitch. Really?
I remember that day. I mean, Cena was doing interviews for MTV.
Yeah.
And they had the premiere literally the day before. So, I mean, they were all in town. It's not like he was flying from the East Coast to the West Coast. He was already in town. And at that point, WWE Studios was already a little shaky. They were already, not really sure about the direction they were going. It's like, should we just be a churn and burn factory where, our wrestlers are available for movie deals, or should we produce our own stuff? I mean, if you look at their, if you look up their history, I mean, most of their stuff was, was distributed by, what was it, Samuel Golden and 20th Century Fox. Mm-hmm. Very low budget. And I'll say this, though, the producers at the helm, I learned so much from. And they had some very experienced producers. They just didn't have the support of WWE as a whole. And it was that, how do we find that balance of, do we create our own product, or do we rely on all of these scripts that come? And there's scripts about a family of superheroes, and it's like, well, what and we had a board of, okay, which wrestlers would work best with which script, and that's kind of where their bread and butter was, because I mean, again, you had Knucklehead and the Chaperone.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like now, I mean, they've kind of steered away from the movies. The last movie they had was Rumble in 2021, and it looks like they're doing more documentary stuff or reality TV with Bianca and Montez Ford. Their documentaries are really good, though. I will admit, WWE does really good documentaries. Whenever I've watched it with somebody who doesn't, really watch a lot of wrestling, and I was like, oh, you got to watch this documentary on, I don't know, John Cena. And it's like, oh, wow, it's really put together well. I'm like, yeah, it's that's one thing they do very well is documentaries, because they have all the footage. They have the rights to all that shit. That's why it's so good.
Well, I can say this, as someone who's worked in reality television, I'm sorry to break this to you, but it's 100% scripted.
Oh, yeah, I bet. That's why I hate it.
What's next? You're going to tell me wrestling's not real?
No, dude. Oh, no, it's real to me.
Damn it.
So wait, all of that, what was that Diva show? Was that all scripted too? That Diva show? Total Divas. Yes. I guess I would assume so, but there's just so much
that
female drama.
I love the Mrs. Journey.
Oh yeah, the Miz and Mrs. I did watch a little bit of that because
No. Before that, when he was on
Real
the
World.
wrestling competition, yeah, Real
oh
World. But then
yeah,
but then he was
Tough
also
Enough.
on WWE's, like tryout. What was it? Yeah, Tough
Tough
Enough.
Enough.
And
Yeah.
all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the wrestlers like Chelsea Green, to kind of backtrack a little bit, but who have put in the work, who behind the scenes are champions of everybody in the locker room, who've had to pay their dues and continue to support and be amazing and just want to be a part of that process. I love those types of wrestlers. And, I, I was watching that. I was watching a documentary recently. I've never watched it before. The one about The Rock and Mankind, and like what goes on behind the scenes. And as someone who loves
Oh.
storytelling and the kayfabe aspect of wrestling, I do love the peek behind the curtain. But I will say, I think they went, and I agree with Cody Rhodes on this in a recent interview. I think they kind of bled both sides a little bit too much.
Okay.
With the road to WrestleMania, because the whole thing with The Rock, he joins the board of directors. Next thing you know, his daughter is a manager at NXT.
Oh yeah, GM.
And then we have this incredible storyline of Cody Rhodes coming back, tearing his pec muscle, all of the trials and tribulations, what you can call the all the different obstacles, like Hercules working his way back up, just for The Rock to say, hey, I want to start this storyline now. It really,
I really picture him just putting his hand on his chest, like Cody's chest, like just like, wait a second.
And from a just from a story perspective, it really, I lost a lot of respect for The Rock that day. I know he's a great wrestler and he's a legend, but it felt too much like nepotism, kind of just stepping in. And we can go. That's a whole different podcast. But that when you have creative control, are you focused more on yourself, or what the story demands, or what the fans want? And I'll also say that I think the Internet Wrestling Council is composed predominantly of casual fans. So the whole Cody Crybaby movement and all of that,
Right.
When The Rock tried to come out with the family tree, and they tried to like kind of reset his motivation and made him heel Rock. I think that was an interesting pivot and save, and I think that's what helped it move forward. But I was definitely nervous because it was, you have creative versus fans, and it was a really difficult thing for them to work through. But I think that's just a testament to Triple H and the other producers behind the scenes, salvaging a really messy situation. And that's what I love. That's why I got into film in the first place.
Yeah, you make a valid point there. Go ahead.
No, please. I want to hear your point.
I was gonna say, you make a valid point there as far as Rock's questioning Rock's motivations for trying to insert himself into the main event, because you could definitely argue that reeked of arrogance, in the sense that they already had plans in place, and rather than him just come in and say, hey, what can I do to help push this forward, it seems like he definitely came in and said, well, hell, I'm here now and I want to participate, but I'm only going to do it in the biggest way imaginable, which came at the expense of a storyline that everybody was clearly already invested in. And, the internet, the IWC doesn't always get it right, but I think in this case, and this is probably, a little bit of a Monday morning quarterback and a little bit of, hindsight is 2020, but definitely seems like this is one of the cases where the IWC speaking out worked out for the best. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, had they really fumbled the ball and limped their way into WrestleMania, stumbling, trying to salvage this thing, then we might all feel different. But, credit to the IWC for, speaking up and, coming to, I guess, to Cody's defense or whatever, but speaking up for the storyline that they were invested in and wanted to see carried out. And then props to WWE for, coming up with a compelling way of getting us that story and pivoting in a way that worked out for the best. And props to The Rock for, once that was the direction they decided to go, fully embracing it and going all in that direction. Because, for as much as we may criticize him for having been arrogant for inserting himself in that position in the first place, once they pivoted and went the other way, he gave us some of the best damn work he's given us in years as that final boss heel character.
I mean, dude, we got to see The Rock 3 nights in a row. I mean, that was phenomenal.
Right. I mean, once he was in, he was in. He put the work in. I mean, he worked him there an hour-long match at night one. So.
And to your point, Dre, I mean, that's a testament to the creative process. I mean, when you work in film, you have an entire team of people, and as an assistant director, you're trying to keep everyone on the same page for the entire shoot, right? Like, you're constantly navigating, obstacles in every different department, trying to keep everything running smoothly at the same pace. And then, sometimes, making creative choices that completely pivot the scene. And so when you compare that to something like the WWE, you're on a live show and you're reacting to what's happening in that moment. If there's an injury, we'll definitely talk about this in the next podcast, but I 100% believe that it was supposed to be Ilya Dragunov versus Sami Zayn, not Braun Breaker, but that's my own personal thing. But being able to make those types of pivots on the fly and have that kind of creative, I mean, when you find out that, that there's different people producing every single different match, I love to see that. I love to see what goes on behind the scenes to create these, and how they feed, again, feeding off the fans, what's best for the story. I think in the last few years, I've learned a lot more about WWE's approach to long form storytelling and not getting that instant gratification and being okay with that. And I think that's where a lot of the IWC and the casual fans are not really comfortable with yet.
Well, that used to be they used to only occasionally bust that out. And now it seems to be the rule. You got to remember that 8 months ago, so-and-so made a comment to someone, because it comes back up all of a sudden. It's cool. But I hope going forward, they're able to make it so approachable again. You don't have to, like you can't sit down and watch a Marvel movie today. You got to go back and watch 30 other fucking things, right? And wrestling shouldn't be like that. I mean, it should reward you for years of viewership or whatever, but you should be able to pick it up pretty quickly. Oh, that's the bad guy. That's the good guy. They're going to fight it because of this. Boom. Scene, and I hope that they're able to maintain that while also providing the fan service. And as and I've been critical of Tripp's pacing sometimes with some of these stories. Sometimes they're just too damn long. Long-term storytelling is good by and large, but sometimes it doesn't need to be. Sometimes it doesn't always have to be 3 months. Sometimes 3 weeks is just fine.
Yeah,
but yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Yeah.
Yeah, not every story needs to be long form. Sometimes you can just give us the quick popcorn flick.
Yeah.
Not every storyline not every storyline warrants the long form, complex, intricate treatment. Sometimes you just give us two motherfuckers who don't like each other and just want to, scrap it up for a couple weeks.
But a prime example, like CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, this thing's been cooking since Royal Rumble. Oh, I love it.
Mm-hmm. And a storyline like that kind of warrants it for, obvious reasons of, Punk's injury and stuff like that. And also the caliber of opponents, warrants something like that for a long term. But
Drew,
for example,
it was Seth. you know, and then
Right. And Drew eventually became a
world
part.
comes in and you pivot.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, that long form storytelling is justified. But take on the other hand, Final Testament and New Day. That shit don't need to be long. That shit, you can resolve that whole storyline in a month and move on.
It's
and
the
then maybe
slow burn.
And rather than trying to give us this long story towards the climax, just give us something quick and let that be a chapter maybe in another storyline that you're telling. Like maybe you have something long drawn out for Final Testament as a whole, but it doesn't have to involve the judgment. I mean, involve New Day for the entire duration. New Day can just be a chapter, and y'all can get in, out, done with that within a couple of weeks, and then move on to the next chapter. Like, there's different ways to do long form storytelling, but I think they're kind of sticking to one formula.
Where we're only going to get 5 matches on a pay-per-view, and some, like the tag titles, for example, can't seem to sniff pay-per-view, but we can put them on SmackDown before the pay-per-view.
Guys, I have a question for you, and I'm relying on your expertise and your knowledge of this. So I was watching an interview with Billy Gunn, and he was talking about his experience of, working in the ring versus working on a TV show. It was like some Nickelodeon show, I think, that he was cast in to like be a wrestler, and he was just uncomfortable with like having to do each pose shot by shot, waiting to change angles, all that stuff, everything that comes with making a TV show. But then you have the same person in the ring. Now, obviously, yes, there's, the scripted aspect of it. And, there's the 7 emotional beats that the wrestlers have to get through to tell a story in the ring. Is there right now still a lot of wrestlers who are improvising when they go live on like Raw, or is there still very much scripted beats? I'm just curious to hear your guys' perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't...
Go ahead.
Oh, I think there's a lot of ad-libbing and off-script. I don't feel like it's as tight as it used to be. I feel like it's a little bit more loose. A lot of the wrestlers feel a little bit more comfortable. Especially ones that were, I say, quote-unquote, raised by Triple H. I guess back when he was in NXT, a lot of those guys who grew up with him, like Seth Rollins and there on forward, like that generation... I think they're used to being able to work on the fly if they want to, and I believe they have like bullet points they probably have to hit. But at the end of the day, I feel like with Triple H, in control, I feel like they have way more range to go.
I think it depends on who it is. I mean, I think a Cody, a Seth, a Drew, a Punk has more latitude with that kind of thing. I don't know that Candice LeRae is high up on the people they want ad-libbing lists. I think they probably want her to say her 4 words and that's it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they have writers for. I mean, it's like, hey, look, I'm bad at this. Can I have the assistance of a writer? And it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. We hired this writer who worked on The Big Bang Theory for 3 years. They know everything about wrestling.
If you read that Gewertz book, I forget what it's called. The book Brian Gewertz wrote, The Rock's like right hand man. A lot about that kind of stuff. It's a great book if you haven't read it.
I'll check that out.
And it talks a lot about the writing process. And also he was there, 10 years ago, so it's not quite. It's and the whole book is about Vince, and things have changed obviously, but it from what he says, it's pretty tightly scripted. But then again, Roman Reigns, the higher up, the longer you've been there, the more cachet you have, the more you're allowed to improvise and rib and whatever.
Yeah,
you can the Punk Seth Drew thing has had a lot of ad libbing, I think. And I think all 3 of those guys are, definitely on the list of people that it's okay if they, go veer off the road a little bit. But I mean, the television business, especially live television, everything's so it's got to happen, in 30 seconds or whatever it is. So I think they're pretty on point with what they're going to say and how they're going to say it and how long it's going to take them to say it. I don't think it's as ad-libbed as you think it is.
Well, yeah, Doyle, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I did want to kind of, with that question, I did want to segue into the fact that I think as a filmmaker or ex-filmmaker, one of my favorite aspects of the live, taping is what happens in everyone's earpiece coming from Gorilla. I've worked on several multicam shows before. I've worked on live productions before where you're in the Gorilla, cueing this angle, this shot, this sound cue, because I want to hear everyone's opinion on that botched sound cue when Priest was on his back, probably concussed, and they counted to 3, and then Drew's music, piped on. And, they did their best to cover it up on social media and to say, move on, guys, move on. It was meant to happen that way.
We fired him.
I think
Don't
Priest
worry.
has come out and said, it was his fault. He,
I mean,
he was supposed to
taking the blame for it.
Yeah.
He was supposed to, and he didn't.
Like, heaven forbid.
He fell on the sword. He did come out and I think said
he
was
did?
supposed to.
Okay.
I think he did fall on the sword. Say he was supposed to kick out, but he didn't.
Right.
Good on him, man. Good on him. Because, I mean, that was, obviously a visibly messy moment. And, that they're going from Gorilla to, Mike Cole to the ref. Everyone's just trying to, because, then you have to rely on Mike Cole and, why am I blanking on his name? To basically, create story. Like, I'll say this. I loved the greatest moment of my life in 2024 was attending a live, Raw, but you miss out on all that juicy storyline from the announcers on the sidelines. And I think that's, they really help flesh out what's happening in the ring, what happened just before, and what to expect. And that's such a cool part. It's like going to a sports event. It is a bit, is football just as exciting from home as it is on the field, right? And I think with something like wrestling, where there is storytelling involved, you do miss out on that particular aspect of what you get every week. And so it's really interesting to see, how they're running the show as is, and then having to pivot. Like, again, I'll say this for the next podcast, but Ilya getting injured. How do you pivot from that moment?
Every now and then you used to get especially when they used to have an international satellite feed or whatever. Every now and then there'd be a fuck up, and you'd get the Gorilla or the production track for a little while. Or I remember the last time I remember it happening was actually during the pandemic, when one of the international feeds or whatever didn't cut away a commercial.
Yeah.
And when there was no one in the arena and the wrestlers stopped wrestling during the commercial break.
I think I remember that, yeah.
And then you see somebody give a cue and they go, okay, and they're back in a headlock when commercials start. You used to see shit like that. I think they've kind of clamped down on that. But every now and then you'd get a couple minutes of the wrong audio feed or something.
Huh.
That's a YouTube rabbit hole. Go down one of these days.
Yeah. Drew, I got a couple other questions for you if you don't mind.
Please.
Have you ever been to live wrestling events, like pay-per-views or Raw, SmackDowns?
Yeah. So, I'm in my 40 years of existence. Working in film and just the way my life has gone, I never gave myself the opportunity to go to an event. I never had the foresight to say, hey, when is this event coming to my city, my state?
Right.
Living in San Diego, it's not easy. The only event I think in the last 3 years was Raw Day One. And
okay,
again, I follow wrestling, and I'm very involved. But my first real live event was Monday Night Raw, January 1st, 2024, and I bought that ticket 4 months before the show even started. I mean, I bought it well in advance, and I knew if I was going to do this, first of all, there's no one in my immediate world that I would invite to this. as a film geek, I go to the movies by myself.
Right.
I don't want to be asking questions. I don't want to be answering questions for someone who's not as up to speed as I am. I want to be fully invested in that moment with the crowd and with the wrestlers. And I splurged a little bit. I got a VIP 2 seats. I was third row from the ring. I specifically picked a seat knowing where the camera was going to be so that I would be on camera throughout the night, because I wanted the theatrical aspect of it. I wanted to show my reactions. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to have the greatest night of my life. And, surrounded by fans and just that close to the energy and the action, it is electrifying. It's exhilarating. I watched an injury occur where I want to say Ciampa he kicked what's his name, one of the Germans. He basically kicked him too hard, got concussed, and you saw them pivot, but it's just and then Samantha Irvine in person, just absolute goddess. Watching Mommy that close. I sent you guys some of the pictures in our group chat, and I got to go home with a VIP chair and a mini belt. I got to,
awesome.
And you got to meet one of the wrestlers as part of the VIP package. It was Jinder. Don't hinder the Jinder, man. I mean, listen,
I would have questions.
In great shape.
Yeah.
I know he's passionate. I know he's humble. I know he respects everything that the WWE has done for him. And he had great energy when he came out and everyone was booing him. And I forgot what he said, but someone translated what he said to me, what he said to the crowd, in different language.
Right.
And, you could tell he was having fun being there. But obviously it was just a foil for The Rock to come out. And they'd shown a package in-house that was purely for the audience. Based on the package they were showing, everyone was convinced that it was going to be The Undertaker. So for The Rock to come out was just, he just him being there, man, it is so great. And then one of my favorite things is at the top of the night, first and foremost, that entire auditorium or stadium was packed. There was not an empty seat in the house on the first night of 2024. And right before they went live, Fluffy, the stand-up comedian, was sitting on the exact opposite side of the stadium of me, and they put a light on him and a camera on him, and it was just an incredible crowd to see all forms of people there. That to me really cemented that I'm not a unique person in this crowd. There are people from all different aspects of this world that have a passion for wrestling. I mean, there were like high school girls dressed as like Liv and Rhea Ripley sitting right behind me, and just to see the real passion from actual fans and not just the online trolls was so reinvigorating for me and showing me like I had a place, no matter who I agreed with or disagreed with. It's a global phenomenon, and that really cemented that for me that night.
It feels
special,
very different than when you go to like a sports event, because like here in Philly, Doyle could attest to this. If our team would lose, the town's gonna get like lit on fire, or if our team wins, our town's gonna probably get
just
lit
to be
on
clear,
fire.
your team, not my team.
But anyway, yeah, it's like, but wrestling fans, there's none of that in the parking lot. And like when we were at WrestleMania, seeing the tailgating was completely different. Everybody was so nice. Everybody was so cool. There's no like, oh, you're a fan of this person, like we hate you. Like, we don't like you. Just like in football, like, oh, you're a fan of the other team? Like, go to hell. Like, but there isn't that in wrestling. It's like, oh, cool, you're a fan of this person. Oh, cool, like you're cosplaying as this wrestler, as the Macho Man. Like, that's so awesome.
Well, I mean, like, I'm in the audience, surrounded by, like, like Rennick was a dad and his kid, and here I am, booing Seth and cheering Drew McIntyre, and this little kid looked at me, and he's like, "Oh my God, how could you?" And I'm like, "But it's true, dude." Like, and I just, but it was all fun, and for like, even though we're like, you may not agree with the person next to you, we're all there feeling that energy, man. And it was, again, it's so tangible. It's so cool.
I think my favorite part of all was just being able to just walk. And I can't do this at like a baseball game because we were just at a baseball game and I was talking to Andrew about it. Like, I was like, babe, we couldn't do what we did at WrestleMania. Could you imagine us just walking through here just going, woo! And seeing see how many people we can get that to just woo, or just walking around just going, yeet! Or, we're just doing like, LA Knight, like catchphrases and stuff. Like the response to people who are just waiting in line to get hot dogs and pizza, or waiting in line to go to the bathroom, just drop everything to like, I gotta woo with these people real quick. Hold on. Like, it's funny. I would just be like walking to the bathroom or something. And I would just yell out a woo just to hear like 40 other people do it.
I'm
gonna say
this.
I love
the
it.
Biggest disappointment of the night.
What's that?
For me.
Of the podcast so far, or of the event?
No. Of attending a live event. My wrestling love goes back, past the Attitude Era and all that. But there was a particular sign that I wanted to bring back. And unfortunately, this particular stadium didn't allow, slightly R-rated signage.
What is it?
And I had Dom eats corn the long way.
Yes! I love those friggin' signs.
Goldberg.
Man, that one gets me just like the tribal queef. That's another one that got me. The tribal queef. I think the guy got like kicked out and escorted out. Like, I followed him on Twitter for a little bit, and then he like would try to get back into wrestling events and walk around with it. The tribal queef. But yeah, that's a good one. So and so eats corn the cob the long way. I love that one. That one is brilliant.
They caught it and they confiscated it.
Yeah. I've had signs confiscated too when I was younger. Yeah, it's like, you gotta. Too bad you can't just bring like a dry erase board. I can make them as I go. But
yeah, I mean, so as far as I can, like, I had my eye set on WrestleMania 41 in Vegas.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be there that week, but I mean, tickets are they're not on sale yet. So I'm just patiently waiting for that moment.
So what's your wrestling shirt situation like right now? We were looking in your closet.
My wrestling shirt.
What wrestling shirts do you have? Do you have any at all? Do you intend on starting the collection? Because once you do, you can't stop. You need one to wear to an event.
I have one sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite because it harkens back to my favorite era of wrestling. And Raw is War. And the classic logo.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one to hold on to.
That's the one I have.
That's the one I feel like you could be wearing at the mall, and some other dude around, 30s, 40s like us will see him and be like, hey! We're like, yeah, that's right, man. That's right. Bra and panty matches all day long. Giving the middle finger.
Growing up, my wrestling collection was always action figures.
Oh, okay.
Whether it was Teenage Mutant, it was always like crossover action figures or just the straight up action figure. So as a kid, always like I was raised in a family where my dad would sneak me out of school my entire life to see movies.
Yeah.
Big part of the reason I got into the film industry in the first place. So thank you, Dad, if you're listening. But all those Hulk Hogan movies. Like Mr. Nanny and always like from space and
Suburban Commando.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh man. So a lot of my wrestling, fandom was through that medium and action figures. And I mean, oh God, what was the first PlayStation wrestling game that I owned? What was that? That was
SmackDown.
No, it was Attitude. I think it was Attitude.
Oh yeah, it was red. It was like
that.
I think I remember. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin was on the cover of it. It was like
Kane.
Yeah. Yep. I remember exactly which one you're talking about because I used to have the same one.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. I mean, that was for me. I mean, that was the game that really got me into wrestling multimedia. Was that video game? Loved it.
Speaking of oh my God. Action figures, I don't like collecting action figures, but I was with one of our listeners, Dwayne Coleman. We were out getting pizza, and we were waiting for the pizza to get ready at Mama's Pizza. So we were like, let's go into Cash Converters, which is like a pawn shop here. And I was digging through the action figures there, and they had 2 in the box wrestling figures. And the only reason I picked these up, 1, because they were dirt cheap, for good reason. And 2, these are action figures of people who we will never get to see again. Sonny, who's going to be in jail for quite some time. So I have an action figure of Sonny now. Back when she was in her prime. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm going to put that out there clear as day.
What, she was the most downloaded woman on the internet?
Yes. Not the recent Sonny.
More downloads than Cindy Margolis.
Yes. Doyle, sound like you know. You know from experience.
Let's see. Growing up, my brother was really into Sable.
So was Brock.
Crush from day one. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So was Brock when he was also a kid.
Jesus. Yeah, we don't have to go down that road of how he courted her. Very weird story. But for me, Trish Stratus was, I think, my original crush.
Yeah, I think she's the one that helped most of us through puberty. I'm pretty sure. If you didn't have I think most of us had a poster of Trish Stratus up on the wall.
Speak for yourselves. My first wrestling crush was Woman. Rest in peace.
Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this not ringing a bell?
I started watching. The only even remotely attractive female was Miss Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to remember, I was a WCW guy growing up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Woman, a.k.a. Nancy Benoit.
The other action figure I got was a Vince McMahon. Yeah. I thought that man. I have one of somebody who's in jail and one of somebody who should be in jail. I was like, this $1 billion asshole. I'm gonna get this because you know what? I feel like one day
you're gonna get a Superfly. You're gonna get a Billy Jack Hayes.
Right? I think I'm just gonna collect controversial superstars or like. I know it's wrong, but I gotta get a Chris Benoit one. I have to get Ted DiBiase Jr. I should have like a wall of shame. That's what it'll be. The wall of WWE shame. Like
Ken Patera, I think he killed somebody.
That's great.
Yeah. Everybody on this wall is dead. Everyone in this one's in jail. What's that?
I almost picked up some Danhausen merch.
Oh.
Yes.
Big fan. I just think he's a little too prone to injury. And, whether he got wasted in ECW, I thought his India run was all he'll ever need. And I think ECW, my belief from day one was that ECW was going to chew him up and spit him out pretty quickly. And I think that's basically what happened. Well, I was, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I don't think he's injury prone. I think AEW's injury prone, given to the long list of people who are on the injured roster, including Adam Cole, Edge, Danhausen, Eddie Kingston, Jamie Hayter, Jay White, JD Drake, Julia Hart, Keith Lee, Kenny Omega, Miro Ortiz, Penelope Ford, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Ruby Soho, Sammy Guevara, Samoa Joe, Scorpio Sky, Shane Taylor, Trent Beretta, and Wardlow. And that is just AEW. Sorry.
Well, but to that point, though, it's, from my understanding, it's AEW is, where real wrestlers go and you get to see real wrestling matches.
And real injuries.
And I'm like, okay, so you're forgoing story to put on, a spectacle, and whether you want to call it spot matches or whatever. But I watched a few matches, and I was like, this is the sloppiest wrestling I've ever seen. Well, they're relying too much on timing with their spots, and I just saw too many botches.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was cringy. Like I was like, I don't want to see someone get injured. It was hard to watch because I felt like everyone was going to get injured.
It is,
and I don't respect that.
It makes me cringe a little.
They're going to be in town in about 2 weeks in my area. I'm on the fence on whether I want to get tickets to it or not.
Yeah,
but they actually be in town, and not just for a random show. It's going to be a Dynamite and Collision taping. So I mean, if I decide to go, at least I'll see the main stars. But
yeah, I don't think they're doing house shows. I think they only do TV.
I think for the most part, I think they do occasional live events.
They used to, before the pandemic, they were trying to start doing them, and then since then I don't think they have done any. But I could be wrong. It's happened once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why I love hearing stories from like.
Could be either way.
No, you should go. It could be a great experience. You could learn something. Who knows?
I mean, I'm genuinely considering it.
Mm-hmm.
I need to check my work schedule and see, because unfortunately it's going to be in Norfolk. So even if I were to go, it'd still be at least probably like a 30-minute drive after work. But I am genuinely considering it. I'm on the fence.
I mean, I'd love to go to an NXT, event. I love what Shawn Michaels is doing with that. I know he's got a lot of support behind him, but those wrestlers, like I love watching mid-card matches where it's young wrestlers who want to put on a show and show up everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You're describing the first hour of Nitro.
That's fucking true.
But give them that platform to merge with the audience and create a bond and that energy, and say, hey, let me show you what we're capable of. And obviously sometimes they can get a little too risky with those matches, but when they put on just a good match and that you say, here's what I'm capable of, here's what we can do, here's what we can build together, do you want to go on this ride with me? Like, I love those matches. Giving them a showcase. It's I think that's such an important piece of every night, and that's why it kind of drives me crazy when you bring Seth Rollins back into an event, or you have someone like The Rock show up again. It's like no, let's give someone else a chance to step up, and like you have this massive roster of great wrestlers. Let's see what they can do. I mean, yes, you want the veteran all-star appeal, brings back older fans. And I'm so excited for Cena's final run in 2025. But and I hope he really gives younger wrestlers the opportunity to really showcase themselves against him. But I think that they'll really squander it if they waste that. So,
yeah, you're absolutely right. They're doing that somewhere else too. I think we can all agree. Robert Downey Jr. is Dr. Doom.
That's a different podcast.
That's a different podcast altogether. But yeah, dude, I agree. It's the same thing with like I always thought that way with Money in the Bank and the Royal Rumble. It's like, oh man, I always thought an upcoming wrestler should get that position, get that spot, and then it became like, no, we're just gonna use it as a segue. So we're gonna have The Rock win it, and then we're just gonna use it up for him just to get himself in the title picture, or we're gonna use this briefcase and cash in the same night and waste it basically.
And speaking directly to that,
yeah,
Drew McIntyre and Punk did not need a title in their feud.
No,
that Money in the Bank was 100% wasted on Drew McIntyre. They are so over with that crowd, and they haven't even wrestled yet.
No.
And the crowd is just eating it up and loving every single bit of it. I mean, the only thing I can think that came from that is it's just further drilling in the point that Drew is getting in his own way and he's not thinking about the bigger picture and what really matters to be successful. And I mean, it was obvious that Punk was going to foil it anyway. So that feud did not need that. And that title should have gone to anybody else. I mean, Chad Gable's drop from 15 feet up?
Yeah.
It was incredible. And all the other wrestlers in that match. There were so many other wrestlers that I think could have done a lot more with that, with the briefcase.
Oh, dude, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. No, it was completely wasted on those two.
I thought they needed to get rid of one. I hate that they have two briefcases. I like that they just got rid of one of them right away, and we can put all the emphasis on Tiffy, because it's Tiffy time.
Oh, it is absolutely Tiffy time. Yeah, great example of another really technical wrestler.
Trey.
I mean, I don't really get her team up with Nia Jax.
Nobody does. You know what though? I think this is a lot of SummerSlam talk. I think we'll get into SummerSlam on another episode.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely.
But Drew, I love that you're here. I love that you're a Peep now. I hope you're willing to come back on at least to be on the show. You know, sometimes it's nice to get out from the audience and get behind the booth and put on the headset and chat some wrestling. So, but hey, man,
we should do some color commentary for a live event. I think
I would actually
put Michael Cole on mute and provide our own color commentary.
I would love to do that, or have you on when we review some. We're talking about doing some WWE movies, or not just films, but anything that a wrestler's in movie wise. So not specifically all those god awful WWE films, but. Yeah. So
and I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and just be with like-minded people, man. It's great to be around other wrestling fans who understand what I'm actually talking about. I remember the other night I was at dinner with my dad, and he was like, "Why do you like it?" And I'm like, "Dad, I know it's fake, but it still hurts. What these wrestlers are capable of, how athletic they are, the stamina that they have to have, how flexible they are, how much movement they have to be capable of, how strong they have to be.
Yeah.
It's like we've really evolved from those, big meat slapping big meat, wrestlers. Now it's like it's athletes, it's football players, it's gymnasts, it's there's this new generation of athletic wrestlers that they've really elevated the sport. And being able to talk about that with people, it's been a blessing, because no one really, and everyone's like, "Oh, you watch wrestling? How old are you?" And I'm like, "Do you even have any idea what's happening in that industry right now? It's so exciting." And it brings a whole diverse group of people together. That's what I love about it.
It's like,
yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just in California last week and talking with some folks out there and explaining to them just how big WWE has gotten over the last, couple of years. And I mean, they were genuinely surprised. Like they obviously, like most people, they were older wrestling fans who, used to watch the product, but aren't, actively watching it now. But just me telling them that stuff, like, WrestleMania's gone 2 nights and that cities are actually bidding for WrestleMania now because it's gotten that big. And they were like, "Are you real?" I'm like, "Yeah." They were like, "Holy shit." Like they were blown away at just how big it's gotten. So as much as we applaud WWE for how big they have gotten now, they still have room to grow. They can still get even bigger, because there's still a group of fans out there that they have not brought back in yet. As much as they brought in, obviously, a whole generation of newer fans and a whole slew of newer casual fans, there's still that older fan that fell off with the product that can still be brought back in. Mm-hmm. And that's, surprising and impressive at the same time. The fact that, again, they're as big as they are now and still have so much room to grow.
That's the R-Truth.
The R-Truth. Drew, if anybody's trying to reach you, like on social media, they wanna find out who you are, get to know you, where can they find you?
Great question. You can find me on the Instagrams or the Twitters at the Max Digital, and that's Max with 2 X's.
Okay.
The Max Digital. I'm a sucker for 80s sci-fi. Max Headroom. That was the inspo for that. Yep. So yeah, if you want to talk wrestling, movies, just life in general, I'm here and looking to learn and grow and just share whatever the situation might be. But at the Max Digital, I'm here and looking forward to connecting with all of you.
Yeah, and he's also in the Discord, so you can find him there too. So all right, guys. Well, this has been a great interview. We're gonna come back around SummerSlam. We're gonna do a predictions episode. That'll be fun, and we'll see if we can get you on that episode too. So, all right, guys, let's get the hell out of here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, here we go.
Oh yeah.
Bye-bye, bitch.